The member for London North Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Deputy Premier. In my community of London North Centre, Dr. Chris Mackey tells me the temporary overdose prevention site has saved 35 lives and conducted 150 rehab referrals in as many days. This government committed to reviewing the evidence and providing an answer by the end of September. But the evidence was already clear. This approach saves lives. It's a well-researched and proven harm reduction tool for combating this unprecedented public health crisis. Does the Conservative Party honestly think this problem will go away if these sites are shut down? Will this government commit here and now to continuing to fund London's temporary overdose prevention site past the deadline of September 30th? Tell this House here and now. Thank you.
Deputy Premier.
I thank the member very much for the question. I'm certainly well aware that there is a serious issue in many parts of Ontario with opioid overuse and overdoses. So it is something that we are taking very seriously here. The health and safety of every person of Ontario is obviously a concern. With respect to overdose prevention sites and supervised consumption sites, I'm very pleased to say that Dr. Mackey was actually one of the people that presented to us on the work that he's doing in London and the activities he's undertaken and the wraparound supports that he's also able to provide. This is something that we took very seriously into consideration. I'm very grateful that Dr. Mackey took the time to come from London to provide us with that evidence, and that is the kind of information that we need for the Premier to make an evidence-based decision about whether these sites should continue or not. And that is something that we will be announcing. The Premier and I will be announcing very shortly, recognizing the September 30th deadline for responding and extending the timelines if they are to be extended.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad to hear that this government is considering solid, robust, peer-reviewed evidence, because these services save lives and they make a huge difference. Now, we're also been concerned over here in the official opposition because the 45-day pause on the overdose prevention sites has really reinforced this public health crisis. This crisis is bigger than HIV in the 90s and polio. In fact, if you put those two epidemics together and times them by 2, you would get the same number of people dying each year in Canada from opioids. So, Speaker, in the face of a public health crisis and the overwhelming evidence that this treatment works, I trust that this government will do the right thing in continuing to fund temporary overdose prevention sites. Because it's the right thing to do. It's the humane thing to do.
Minister.
Well, thank you. The member is absolutely correct that there is a serious public health issue involved here. There are different ways that one can combat it. We have spoken with the Office of the Chief Coroner and the Chief Medical Officer of Health for Ontario, as well as many other people, including people with lived experience who have told us quite directly what these sites have meant to them. We are taking all of that information into consideration in terms of making recommendations to the Premier, much of which has already been shared with the Premier. And as I said before, recognizing that this deadline is coming up in order to achieve the extension, if that is to be done, has to be done before September 30th, and therefore an announcement will be made very shortly.